What is going on, Nerd Raiders? Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for coming to hang here with me today as we play some ARK Survival Evolved today and talk about ARK Medieval Times. So what the purpose of this video is to educate you guys on what is new, cool, and unique in ARK Medieval Times, because it has been, since the release of the previous video, one of the biggest questions that I've gotten. What makes ARK Medieval Times unique? What are the systems like? Tell us more about it. You talked about this cool primitive server, Nick, but I want to hear more about it. Well, we're going to jump into that right after some introductions. In case you don't already know, I'm Nick, this is Nerd Parade, and let's talk about Medieval Times. Alright, so like I mentioned in the previous video, if you happened to see it where we announced ARK Medieval Times and the server was available, I did say that I was going to have a full write-up in the Nerd Parade Discord, and this is where we're at. Discord.gg/nerdparade. You can take a look at what I'm currently looking at right now if this video doesn't answer all your questions. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to laser focus in on what makes ARK Medieval Times ARK Medieval Times. Because as I mentioned, this has been the biggest question that I've received since we've talked about the releases. What makes this different from any other ARK server? We're going to tell you. So we've got our rates here. This is going to be the first thing that I talk about. You can click the Easy Connect button to join the server right away. But right below that, we have the rates. Pretty common stuff. But we're going to skip down here to the bottom. We're going to see something that says no loot crates. Now, I have this detailed further down, right around here, but we're going to talk about this now because this is a really cool point that ARK Medieval Times, as well as Project Old School, has. No loot crates. However, in their place, we have the quest system. Now, the quest system is really super cool, and it allows for a lot of flexibility within the ARK, within the world on the server. Instead of loot crates raining down from the sky, there are quests that you can complete in the game. Some of them are random, they're going to give you random stuff, but as an example, one quest is, if you kill a certain amount of other player characters, you're going to receive a reward instantly into your inventory. For example, I'm feeling a little bit frisky and I want to run out and do some PvP. If I happen to kill another character or characters, I'm going to notice that after I kill them, I automatically get some kind of bonus into my inventory. And you don't have to go and loot that character to receive this, it's just automatically deposited into your inventory. The quest system allows us that kind of like cool flexibility and really neat interactiveness with not only the environment, but with other players. So it's something that I'm really excited to have here in ARK Medieval Times. So below that, and going deeper, Inception style, we talk about the mods that are currently allowing us to make ARK Medieval Times ARK Medieval Times. A couple of these mods you'll notice is server staples for everything that has to do with Nerd Parade ARK servers, but we're going to talk a little bit more about them and how they're configured for Medieval Times. The big ones that you're going to see right off the bat are Nominal Structures, the Dino Storage, Death Inventory Keeper, Immersive Taming, and EcoRP Decor. The reason why we have these mods, I'll start from kind of the bottom, the way we have here listed on the notes. With Medieval Times being a primitive style server, we're going to miss out on a lot of quality of life features that advancing through the tiers tend to bring us. Specifically things like cooking, irrigation for water and things of that nature, and preservation, like refrigerators, for example. So with this mod, it allows us to use the cooker, which cooks meat 4 times faster than a campfire, but still preserve that primitive style feel, since we're not advancing to the, not necessarily tech stage, but the more advanced industrial cooker. It doesn't necessarily fit the theme of a Medieval Times primitive style server, but the cooker, however, accomplishes that. Next up on the docket is our cooking pot. And the cooking pot is an absolute lifesaver because with the primitive cooking pot in vanilla ARK, you constantly have to add the water skins or the water jars, and it almost deters you from wanting to cook or make cool recipes and things like that in ARK. It's honestly a big pain in the butt, and one of the reasons why it just drives me insane, and I want to get to the industrial cooker, right? Next up is the ice box, which is basically a no fuel required refrigerator. Super awesome. Also, again, fits our primitive bill. And then the water bucket plus sink, a no source required style of water or irrigation. Big quality of life things, fits the primitive style theme that our server is creating, and just really, really nice quality of life. Dino Storage, if you played on any Nerd Parade server in the last like 2 years, you've played with Dino Storage. It is our Dino Pokeball, which is a much more effective version of the Cryopods, and a much easier to get, and even primitive style, because you get that cool book terminal, and it fits with our theme very, very well. Now, Deathkeeper, we don't always have on Nerd Parade servers, but it's something that really creates a nice effect for players that don't tend to care too much about PvP. Now, at its core, this is going to be a primitive style PvP warfare server. We're encouraging PvP with things like wars and stuff of that nature, but there's not a lot of really cool primitive style servers out there, and we don't want to completely alienate those that just don't want to participate in PvP at all. And this is a very small way to create a middle ground. So what Death Inventory Keeper does is, if you're doing any type of PvE activity and you die or get arked, which is very likely to happen, you get to keep your kit. However, if you go scouting or exploring around enemy territory, you'll lose your kit if you die. Or if you engage in any type of PvP activity, there's a 15-second cooldown, 15-second cooldown, where you can drop your kit if killed. So this is a way to kind of bridge the gap between big P. I think I'm dying in game. I'm clearly bleeding out. We have a couple of chat commands which will allow you to execute a couple of cool features within here, like /stats, /set ORP, remove ORP, and show ORP. I finally died in game. ORP is enabled in the server, and we have a kind of a special relationship with ORP going on. So I do have it listed lower here on my list, but we're going to talk about ORP right now because there are chat commands involving it. ORP is always enabled. I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. ORP is always enabled even when you're online, and this creates a 90% damage reduction to all of your structures. There are 2 exceptions to this rule, but if you are online or offline, ORP is enabled. It is creating a constant 90% damage reduction to all of your structures. The 2 caveats to this is it's disabled during war times, and it is disabled in caves or any structure that functions like a cave. Any area that would take increased damage in vanilla ARK is considered cave damage. Then the ORP will not protect you from that. Those are the 2 exceptions. So going a little bit deeper and talking about war times, if you remember the Purge series that we've had on Nerd Parade servers past, war functions very similar to that. There's a designated period of time where ORP falls off for those that are online, but still persists as normal ORP for those that aren't able to join, so it is true offline protection at that point. When during wartime, if you are online, the 90% damage reduction global stops being in effect, and for that period of time, which is currently scheduled to 7:30 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be doing my absolute best to stream all the wars on twitch.tv/nerdparade. So head over there and drop a follow. Make sure that you're following to catch all the wars. However, going back to the ORP, recapping, it does not work in caves. It does not work during war times if you're online. And outside of war times, online or offline, it is a blanket 90% damage reduction. Next up, drops. Now, we talked a little bit about drops earlier, but I'm recapping on this now. Drops are disabled in favor of the quest system, which we have enacted in Project Old School. We talked a little bit about it. We're not going to talk over it again, but the quests, I like the quests a lot. They're super cool. And flyers. Now, I'm going to get asked this question a lot because we do have flyers enabled, but what about classic flyers? We love the speed. Honestly, I did too. The speed on the flyers is super awesome. However, from a server managing angle, the added speed on flyers creates a lot of problems. One such as flyers go so fast that structures don't zone in time or render in time. And then there's suddenly a pterodactyl in your base. How did this happen? It's a pain in the butt. So for those reasons, if you're a fan of Shark Tank, we're out when it comes to classic flyers. Now I have to jump slightly back up in my list because there's a couple of things that I did leave out because we're trying to go in a little bit of a cohesive order, but they are very, very important. 1, stone tier is max. However, with the cool ORP stuff, stone tier is actually really strong. So metal tier is not really required. Metal tier solid. Bring! No explosives or automated defenses. So stone tier is pretty strong. If you're looking to do some solid raiding, you're going to want to employ 3 tactics. Guile and ingenuity, dinos and creatures, siege weaponry. Raid like it would be the medieval times and use what you have at your disposal. Your smarts, your creatures, and your catapults, and ballistas and other cool things like that. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, this buddy right here, no blueprints or tiered gear. This is a huge tip of the imaginary hat to Game of Obelisk. All players are on equal footing. No ramshackle, no apprentice, nothing like that. All gear is base tier, and your skill is going to have a major impact on how you do in-game. Also, your character build is going to be very, very important. So build your character around what you want. There will be firearms, but think smithy tier and below. So you're going to have your pistol and your long neck rifle, but nothing you can make out of a fabricator. Now, moving down to the final little segment here, the things that we've utilized for Project Old School and also bringing over to Medieval Times, the core framework and integration of Project Old School is going to be a really long, wordy explanation and probably something for an entire other video. We talked about the quest system already, the immersive taming mod integration. I fell in love with immersive taming. It is so super cool, and it is going to be available here because we talked about it up at the top on Medieval Times. Taming is not going to be like you would tame normally on vanilla servers. And last, the leaderboard system, which is tracked currently here in the Nerd Parade Discord. So you can see how many players you've killed, how many times you've died, and compete with your friends if you so choose. So, if you want to join this server, like I mentioned, discord.gg/nerdparade, here is the write-up, link is in the description below me. Come into here, and you can click, boop, this link right here, and it'll open up the server for you. Now, we're finally back into ARK. We're going to respawn. Since I died terribly, we're going to have a weird strobe effect, and we're going to progress with our leveling up. Now, I hope this video was very informative to you guys that were kind of interested / concerned / curious about what ARK Medieval Times was and if this would be a server that you would enjoy playing on. Trust me, if you enjoyed any of the previous seasons, like I mentioned in the last video, Game of Obelisk, the Purge series, even things like World War ARK, you are really going to enjoy this type of server. If you like primitive gameplay, you're gonna like this type of server. So come and hang out with me here in the next video, where we start our playthrough as well as do all types of Nerd Parade things. But for now, hopefully I answered some of your questions, and this is where I leave you. Take care of yourselves, stay awesome, and I'll see you very soon. Later.